Today we're diving into a classic horror film called Wolf Creek. This chilling tale is based on true events. In Australia, around 30,000 people vanish each year. About 90% are eventually found within a month. The remaining 10%, however, vanish without a trace. Our story takes place in the remote western region of Australia in 1999. Ben and two girls decide to drive out on an adventure to visit Wolf Creek National Park. Ben quickly heads to the market to pick up the girls. The girl with the red hat is Liz, and the other one is Christy. They pack their belongings into the car and eagerly set off toward their destination. On the road, they laugh and chat, taking turns driving the car. It's going to be at least a 2-day journey. As the daylight begins to fade, the group decides to stop and rest at a campsite for the night, planning to resume their trip in the morning. The trio sits around the campfire, gazing at the brilliant starry sky above. Liz and Christy have never seen such a spectacular night sky before. Ben tells the girls that their current location happens to be one of the world's top 5 UFO sighting spots. He recalls hearing a story about someone driving along this very road, spotting flashing lights roughly 500 meters ahead. Initially, the driver thought it was a truck or a trailer since the lights were so bright and orange-colored. But as he got closer, he realized that the lights were hovering about 10 meters above the ground. Completely terrified, the witness then heard a roaring engine sound, and the object shot straight upward into the sky like a rocket. Yet, no one knows for sure if this event was real or not. The next morning quickly arrives. After packing up their gear, the 3 travelers continue their journey. Along the way, Liz spots a sign pointing to a small town. She immediately suggests taking a quick detour to the town to rest and refuel. At this moment, Ben pulls out his camcorder to film their adventures. Unexpectedly, a shop clerk approaches them and introduces himself directly to the camera. Meanwhile, Liz is shopping when she realizes that several men behind her are staring at her intensely. They find Liz attractive, noticing her good looks and figure. When Ben walks in, the men call him over. Brazenly, they ask Ben if Liz could spend some intimate time with them. Ben immediately rejects them and curses them out. This angers the group, nearly resulting in a physical confrontation. Luckily, the shop clerk steps in to calm things down just in time. Both sides see the situation clearly and back off. The 3 quickly get back on the road. Soon they arrive at Wolf Creek National Park. The park is famous for its huge meteorite crater, but to reach the center of the crater, a 3-hour hike is required. Ben notices the gloomy weather and worries it might rain, so he packs an umbrella along with other essentials, and they start their hike. However, as they leave the car behind, a mysterious figure watches secretly nearby. 3 hours later, they finally arrive at the crater rim. Ben, who researched the trip beforehand, explains to the girls that they're standing above one of Earth's largest meteorite impact craters. Scientists calculated that the energy released by the meteorite's collision was equivalent to about 200 nuclear bombs exploding simultaneously. Finding scattered bones around here isn't unusual at all. In 1947, mineral companies discovered this crater while surveying the area. Later, it became Wolf Creek Park's only attraction. Because it's so isolated, the place hardly attracts any visitors. The thrill brought by the giant crater quickly disappears. Suddenly, raindrops start falling from the gloomy sky. The group decides to briefly rest before heading back. Liz sits alone on the mountain edge, admiring the view. At this moment, Ben approaches her. Their mutual attraction, developed over the past few days, blossoms into romance, and they share a tender kiss. They soon return to their car. But strangely enough, Christy notices that her watch has stopped, and Ben's watch is malfunctioning as well. They assume it's due to magnetic interference from the meteorite crater. Ben estimates it's about 7 o'clock, meaning they still have an hour before dark. That's plenty of time to reach the next town. But when they try to start the car, an unexpected issue arises. Turning the ignition key produces no response at all. Ben suspects there's a loose connection in the battery. However, once he opens the hood, he freezes, realizing he knows nothing about fixing cars. Helpless, the group decides to wait in the vehicle, leaving their fate to chance. Soon, night falls upon them. Christy suddenly notices distant lights approaching. Liz speculates it's a passing car. As the lights draw closer, they confirm it's indeed a vehicle. The trio quickly exits their car, hoping to seek help. A figure emerges from the bright lights. He's a middle-aged man named Mick. Ben explains their situation to Mick, kindly. Mick inspects their car and finds the ignition coil damaged. He tells them he can fix it by replacing it, but unfortunately, he doesn't have the necessary tools with him. Instead, Mick offers to tow their car back to his camp, fix it overnight, and have them on their way at sunrise. Given their current predicament in the isolated wilderness, Ben decides it's their only practical option. Mick seems friendly enough, so they don't worry too much. Eventually, the 3 agree to head to Mick's camp. The car ride seems to last forever. Christy grows uneasy, feeling that they've driven for hours without arriving at their destination. Ben remarks it's too late to worry now, and being unfamiliar with the surroundings, they can't simply leave the car halfway. Eventually, they arrive at Mick's campsite, and he pours each of them a glass of water. Mick explains the water is pure, naturally filtered rainwater collected from mountain peaks. He then tells them that long ago there was a small town nearby. In the 1940s, a devastating dust storm lasted 6 months and buried the town. This forced everyone to move away, leaving possessions behind which Mick later collected for his camp. Mick mentions that he previously worked as a hunter on a farm, responsible for eliminating wild animals. He begins proudly describing his hunting achievements and tactics. The three listen intently and find themselves thoroughly entertained. But when Ben quotes a line from a movie,
"That's not a knife. This is a knife,"
Mick's expression suddenly turns serious. The atmosphere quickly grows uncomfortable. Attempting to break the tension, Ben asks Mick about his current occupation. Mick chillingly replies, "I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you." At first, everyone takes it as a joke and brushes it off. Christy then curiously asks if Mick has ever killed kangaroos or similar animals. Mick's reply is spine-chilling. He casually admits he's helped others kill kangaroos, describing them as abundant and numerous as tourists who visit this area. After this unsettling conversation, Mick steps aside to fix their car. Once he's gone, Liz whispers to Ben that Mick seems suspicious. She warns Ben about the murderous look Mick gave him earlier. Even though Mick is fixing their car, Liz reminds them they must stay vigilant and cautious. As Mick works on the car outside, the three soon find themselves overwhelmed by sudden sleepiness. When Liz eventually wakes up, she is shocked to find her hands bound. It is now late afternoon. She found herself trapped inside a storage shed. Realizing something was terribly wrong, she anxiously glanced through the window. Outside, she saw chaos. Clothes stained with blood scattered around. Her friends were nowhere to be seen. It was clear that Mick had done all of this. After struggling unsuccessfully, she remained inside the shed until nightfall. Then, she spotted shards of glass on the floor. Enduring intense pain, she managed to cut through her restraints. After ensuring Mick wasn't nearby, she decided to escape by car. But as she approached the vehicle, she discovered Mick had already torn it apart completely. At that moment, Christy's anguished screams echoed from the nearby building. Gathering her courage, Liz cautiously approached the window and peeked inside. The room was horrifying. Hooks hung everywhere, weapons covered the walls. Christy was tied to a post, badly wounded, clearly tortured. Mick was nearby, casually picking out tools. Christy pleaded desperately for Mick to let her go, but Mick told her to keep quiet. Thinking quickly, Liz poured alcohol onto a nearby car and lit it on fire. Not satisfied, she ignited a gas canister, causing an explosion. Hearing the noise, Mick hurried outside to investigate. Taking advantage of Mick's absence, Liz rushed in to free Christy. But before she could fully untie her, Mick returned, having already put out the flames. Liz had no choice but to hide inside a chest. Mick approached Christy, intending to continue his horrific acts. He untied Christy and forced her to look at a charred corpse, threatening that she'd end up like that if she didn't cooperate. Suddenly, Liz emerged from hiding, pointing a gun at Mick. Mick showed no fear, telling her there was only one bullet in the gun and that she wouldn't be able to hit him anyway. Overwhelmed with emotion, Liz raised the gun and fired, hitting Mick directly in the neck. Mick collapsed to the floor instantly. Liz rushed toward him to fire again, but indeed, there was only one bullet. In a panic, she struck Mick twice with the empty weapon. Liz quickly freed Christy, and together they headed outside, planning to escape in Mick's car. However, after getting in, they discovered the keys were missing. Liz bravely went back inside to find the keys on Mick's body. She successfully retrieved them, started the car, but just then Mick staggered out, still alive. Seeing this, Liz slammed on the accelerator, trying to run Mick down, but Mick was agile enough to dodge the attack. Taking advantage of Mick's momentary confusion, Liz turned the car around and sped away. With no time to check on Ben's condition, they simply fled for their lives. Shortly after their escape, Mick pursued closely behind. Unfamiliar with the terrain, the girls frantically drove straight toward a cliff. Mick was rapidly catching up to them. To avoid giving away their location with the headlights, Liz quickly decided to push the vehicle off the cliff. This created the illusion that they had crashed, hopefully stopping Mick from pursuing further. The girls then hid by clinging to the cliffside. Seeing the car crash, Mick went down to confirm if they had died. Taking this opportunity, Liz and Christy climbed back up, hoping to escape using Mick's vehicle. But upon opening the car door, they discovered yet again no keys. This revelation completely crushed their spirits. Then Liz remembered she'd previously taken a set of keys from Mick. Realizing there must be other vehicles available at the campsite, they decided to return and search for transportation, also hoping to find Ben. Arriving near the campsite, Liz instructed Christy to wait outside. She would enter alone to find another vehicle. She told Christy, "If I don't return within 5 minutes, run in the opposite direction until you reach a main road. That's your best chance to survive." Inside the garage, Liz discovered numerous photos and newspaper clippings pinned to the wall. It seemed clear that many people had fallen victim here before. On the table, Liz found a loaded revolver, which she took for protection. Opening the garage doors revealed exactly what she'd hoped. Several cars were parked inside. She searched deeper into the room for the keys. There she saw photos of countless missing persons, including herself, Christy, and Ben. This place stored belongings from those who had disappeared. Liz even found Ben's knife among the items. Nearby, she noticed several camcorders and curiously played one. It showed a family visiting the park who ended up stranded due to car trouble, exactly like her situation. They had encountered Mick, who had invited them back to his campsite. Quickly, Liz played another camcorder and discovered it contained footage from their own trip. Watching the footage carefully, Liz realized with horror that Mick's car had been parked outside the store where they'd stopped earlier. It became clear Mick had been stalking them from the very beginning. Even the car trouble had been deliberately caused by him. Realizing all this, Liz hurriedly jumped into a car and attempted to start it. But Mick suddenly appeared behind her. Desperate, Liz drew the knife to defend herself. Mick, amused by her futile resistance, mocked her by repeating Ben's earlier words.
"This is a knife."
Without hesitation, Mick brutally struck, severing 3 of Liz's fingers. This completely incapacitated Liz. Angry about the earlier cliff incident, Mick decided to punish Liz further. He cruelly severed Liz's spinal cord with his knife, leaving her paralyzed and helplessly at his mercy. Meanwhile, Christy, still waiting outside, became increasingly worried when Liz didn't return. Following their agreement, she sprinted in the opposite direction. After running all night, Christy finally reached the main road by dawn. Fortunately, a passing driver stopped upon seeing her bloodied appearance. Without hesitation, he welcomed her into his vehicle, quickly preparing water and a blanket for comfort. The man casually placed the water container on top of the car, but moments later he was shocked to see the container punctured by a bullet. Instantly, he collapsed to the ground. Hearing the commotion, Christy left the car in panic. She quickly found the keys on the driver, took control of the vehicle, and fled. Mick closely followed, driving alongside Christy and taunting her. Seizing an opportunity, Christy suddenly swerved and rammed Mick's vehicle off the road into a ditch. Enraged, Mick emerged from the wreckage, aimed his weapon at Christy, who was severely injured and barely conscious. Shockingly still alive, Mick coldly finished her off. He then placed both bodies into the car, burning the vehicle to hide his tracks. Elsewhere, Ben regained consciousness, finding his hands brutally nailed to wooden stakes. Bearing excruciating pain, Ben managed to rip his hands free. Seeing Mick nowhere in sight, he seized the chance and fled into the vast, empty wilderness. However, wandering endlessly through the barren landscape, Ben found no escape. Finally collapsing from exhaustion, he was fortunately discovered by a passing couple. They rescued Ben, quickly calling an ambulance, giving him a chance at survival. Ben also miraculously survived this horrifying ordeal. After undergoing medical treatment, Ben eventually recovered. He immediately reported everything he remembered to the police. However, despite an extensive search by authorities, no traces of Liz or Christy were ever found. The investigation soon turned chaotic. Locations couldn't be accurately identified, and the only surviving witness wasn't deemed fully reliable. Thus, the case remained unresolved and was eventually shelved. And this is where our story comes to an end.